Welcome to Move, Sweat, Discover, the podcast where fitness meets self-discovery. Today, we have a guest all the way from Singapore, Miss Alicia Pan.
Hello,
Miss.
Abby.
So, actually, you are the co-founder of Yoga Movement.
I am.
A Singapore-based collection of yoga studios, also now recently launched in Hong Kong. Congrats.
Yes. Thank
Co-founder
you.
of Move Repeat, a fitness lifestyle company that houses a collection of boutique fitness brands, including YM and Strong and Rebel.
Recently Rebel training, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my research, I also discovered that you are a singer-songwriter.
A has-been singer-songwriter.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
Well, music has always been my passion. And, I was never set out to be an entrepreneur. This was a really accidental success of mine. I've always been into music, and I had moved to Taiwan when I was 19. And actually, that's where I discovered yoga. I went there, and because of the hectic lifestyle of entertainment there, I found this sacred space that I could find time for myself. And a lot of my friends at that time were yoga instructors, like, oh, come try a class. And I was never really into yoga, to be frank, at that time. But, obviously because of the influence of my friends, I'm like, sure, I'll pop in for a class. And then all of a sudden, it just became my sanctuary. So I pursued a music career for a little while.
Yeah.
Released a couple of EPs, singles, did gigs around Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, and actually in Shanghai as well.
Yeah.
And then after that, moved back to Singapore, continued my studies, and then decided for some strange reason that I wanted to open a yoga studio. And then that was kind of how the whole music yoga journey began. I discovered yoga in my music career, and then that took over my life.
What was your musical vibe?
I would say I'm more R&B soul.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely like that genre. I skew towards that genre. I write my own music.
Yeah.
So definitely influenced by that kind of sound.
And does that, do you still perform? Do you miss that side?
I do 100%. Once in a while, I still get booked for gigs.
Okay.
But, the clock is ticking on my end. And the less you do, the less you get forgotten. The more you get forgotten. Sorry, I'll switch that around. And I would say the last gig I did was probably 3 years ago, thereabouts. And right now I just do that for fun. I sing in my shower. I sing for my kids.
Yeah, you're the queen of karaoke, or no?
My friends love karaoke. And when I'm there, I just kind of belt it out, and they all expect me to belt it out. So I just go, I love it. I mean, I love doing that for fun now, but I'm not a regular goer.
Right.
But I do love a good time there. So why not?
So you discovered yoga whilst you were kind of doing your music.
I was.
And then at what stage did you kind of think about opening up your own space?
I was teaching around Singapore as a part-time teacher.
Okay, so you were certified. So,
I was. I think because I had been practicing for, I think at that time, maybe 1 to 2 years, but very regularly. I was like, you know what? I feel like this is something that I could pick up, and I do like being in front of people, and I do like sharing wisdom of all sorts, if I might say, or just sharing, and being in front of people and leading a room. So I was like, this could be something that I could do on the side. And then I went and did my training. And I was teaching around Singapore for a little bit. And I noticed a few kind of gaps in the market where, I've tried to bring a couple of friends along to my classes. I tried to bring my then boyfriend, now husband, to a couple of my classes. But I think they felt like it was very intimidating. They were like, well, the usual thing people say when they don't do it is, well, I'm not coming because I can't touch my toes. But I'm like, well, it's precisely that. That's why you're coming. You don't have to come. And you don't have to come with a prerequisite of having to touch your toes. So I think a lot of what was out there at that time kind of put people off in terms of the visual aesthetics of the brands that were around, or like the idea that yoga is this crazy movement class where you need to be able to, bend backwards like a pretzel and things like that. So I think that was the barrier to entry. A lot of people, and I'm talking about like 15 years ago, right? So then I was like, you know what? I just feel like there's something that's missing there in this market where we could potentially open the doors to people who have never set foot in a yoga studio, something that's accessible, something that's, just a everyday lifestyle, visual aesthetically pleasing type of brand. So then my husband, who was then a brand manager of a surf lifestyle brand, came together with me and said, yeah, if it's something that you want to do, I can kind of brainstorm with you and we can kind of think about the angle of the branding and how we want to do this together.
Yeah.
And he was kind of really helpful for me on the side at that time because I had obviously no business background. He helped me a lot with setting up the numbers, just kind of working out like what would be a viable business. So we kind of came up with this concept that was similar to like a budget airline type of, it's like a budget airline type of, how do I say it? Well, kind of like a concept that was similar to budget airline. Let me just rephrase that.
Yeah.
Where, you would pay a minimal amount to join a class, but then everything would be add-on. So during that time, Yoga Moon was nothing like it is today. It was very no frills, fuss free.
Yeah.
You would go in, you would pay a nominal fee, but then if you wanted to rent a mat, you pay an extra $2. And if you want to rent a towel, you pay an extra $1.
Right.
If you want to, rent this, you add on and add on and add on. So that was a very accessible, first of all, price point for the regular Joe who only wanted to do yoga, for example, once a week or once a month, for that matter. And then that kind of just opened the doors to a lot of people who would have never actually set foot to a yoga studio. And they were like, okay, you know what? I'm going to come in and try because I'm not tied into like a year-long membership, for example. I'm just going to drop in. If I like it, I'll continue. If I don't, I won't. And that was number one. And number two, we were very deliberate in the branding. The brand angle was that, nothing in our visual aesthetics or our brand images would look intimidating. No advanced poses, no one bending backwards looking like a pretzel. It was all very lifestyle centric, healthy, happy looking people just going in to get in a sweat.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of opened the doors to a lot of people who would have never thought about coming in. They're like, okay, I'll just give it a try. Why not? So then Yoga Movement was born. And then, just kind of, we didn't have that plan of, we're going to go to Hong Kong 12 years later. It was just really, we'll just go and set up one studio and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then the demand just created the opportunities to open the second and then the third and the fourth and the fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have to kind of commend you and say that like you're very successful in achieving that accessibility. Like I found Yoga Movement, I think in 2022 or so, I'd spent like a little chunk of time in Singapore for a few months for work. And, like the nearest studio was the Orchard flagship.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, I bought a package straight off and went. And I've done yoga before and it's fine. I'm not like super bendy, super flexible. But I think one of the things that will turn me off is that quite a lot of the studios back then were quite intimidating because they had the people with like in the pretzel poses and because there was this sort of overwhelming sense of spirituality. And I think that I can be spiritual, but sometimes in a class setting, I just want to move. I just want to stretch.
Exactly.
You just want to get your sweat on. You don't want to
Exactly.
be chanting with like a room full of strangers feeling like uncomfortable. And that I think like sets off quite a trigger sometimes to some people.
So we are quite spiritually neutral. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just
not.
like you said, like if I, for example, had a really, can I swear? I had a really shit day at work.
Yeah.
And I just want to get in there at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And I just want to sweat it out for 45 minutes to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And get out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be told about, letting go of how hard things are by someone else because I want to process that internally by myself.
Sure. Yeah.
But what I need from my external environment is I just need help to just help me to move and feel better about myself.
Yeah.
And then I can go digest all that on the side on my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's more like, we try to remove any kind of preaching of any sort. You know, who am I as your yoga teacher to go in there and tell you, if you're feeling sad or like depressed or blah, 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 you should do this and this and that. I am nobody to tell you that.
Yeah.
I haven't gone through what you've gone through. Therefore, I am in no position to tell you how you should think or what you need to do. What I can do is I can go in there and make you feel better physically and maybe clear your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's our purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that the feedback that you get a lot from your kind of community? Like are they
appreciate it? Yeah. I mean, they come in knowing what to expect because we're quite deliberate in what we execute.
Yeah.
In terms of even the class type, the paces of the class, what we can or can't say in the class. And I do think people come in knowing already what to expect. For example, if I want to come in and I just want to kind of work really hard and then get out, and I know I'll come for a power flow class.
Yeah.
If I want to come in and just zone out and just do deep stretches, I know I'm coming in for a Zen class.
Yeah.
So I think the feedback has been relatively consistent throughout the 12 years. Obviously, our class types have evolved, and we chuck in new things here and there. And we do events and whatever needs to be done to cater to whoever we're doing the events for. But more or less in general, our stuff's quite consistent.
Yeah.
And I think, again, coming back to the branding, it's all very deliberate and people know that I am coming to yoga movement not to feel spiritual or I'm not coming to yoga movement to heal myself. I'm just going there for 60 minutes of a good sweat to feel good and I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Obviously, in our spaces, we also create areas like little nooks and crannies where people can set up their workstation. We have coffee bars. If you've been to the Orchard flagship location, we have our own coffee bar where people can set up out on the patio, do a class, go outside, have a coffee, do some work, go to maybe another class and actually have space for dwell time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I noticed both in Singapore and Hong Kong was actually the number of men that come to the classes, which before that experience, I would probably be one of two, if any, guys in a yoga class. What do you think about, what you've kind of created gave that accessibility to guys?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'm very proud of that. I must say I did notice that as well. Because, when I've been teaching for a long time and when I first started teaching, my class would be like 99.9% women, and then yoga movement started. And then I noticed a lot of men coming in and we're not talking about like super bendy men. I'm not talking about acrobats who like work in Cirque du Soleil or anything like that, We're talking about regular guys who go to the gym, they play golf, they swim, they run, they bike, And most of them, obviously I know they are working on flexibility and mobility, but it's really heartening to see that they're open enough to come in and they don't go, well, I'm not coming because I can't reach for my feet or touch my toes anymore. They're willing to give it a shot. And I think a huge contributing factor to that would be, again, the accessibility of the brand, what they see in our brand and marketing, like everything, imagery that we post. Again, people having fun, people feeling happy, healthy people don't necessarily have to be young, but we got to be youthful at heart. And poses that make you feel like a normal person. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what has opened the doors to a lot of men to go, maybe it's not that bad. Yeah. Maybe I don't have to do that I see elsewhere, or I don't have to be of a certain body type or body shape, or I don't have to like eat a certain way. We're very huge believers of balance. It's not like you do yoga and you can't have a beer. So we've done, events that serve beer after the class and things like that, just to make it a little bit more your everyday type of activity. So, you don't have to be a certain type to do yoga. And, yoga welcomes everyone. Yeah. But yeah, it's been encouraging to see so many more men coming in.
Well, the first class at Orchard was a hot class, and it was in the big studio, and I would say it's about 70% men.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm in the right place. So that's why I definitely came back for my second class.
Wow. Yeah, that was good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your husband kind of helped you. So he's the other co-founder.
Yes.
How is it working together and like cohabiting and, having children? Like, how is that balance?
It took a little while of navigating through what would work for us. I think for us, I could definitely see how it could go both ways. And, obviously sometimes when we argue about work, it gets, but this is the same with everyone. You work with your coworkers and you disagree on something. You're like, oh, I could strangle you right now. But this happens because we're all very strong personalities. But I think what's so good about our working dynamic is that we do recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses. I know what he's good at. He knows what I'm good at. And I know that what he's good at, I am unable to do. What I'm good at, he's not necessarily able to do either. So I think we do respect the boundaries in that way. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of a crossover sometimes where, because his working style might differ from mine. If I don't do it that way, he's just like, I don't get it. Why don't you do it this way? And for me, I'm like, you overconsider, why can't we just get it done? Blah, blah, blah. You think too much. So there's that. But I think for majority of it, we understand what we do well. So, obviously if we're having a disagreement in an area of work that I know, okay, look, he's led this area so far and, he's done it really well. And I always think, okay, if I were running the show alone, could I handle this as well as him?
Yeah.
And if I say no, then you're going to lead it, and vice versa, the other way as well, where he would do the same for me. But obviously it has its challenges because we live, eat, and breathe the business. Yeah. And we have 2 beautiful boys now. And we often catch ourselves talking about, hey, what did sales do today? Or how many people came to this event today? And it's just all consuming. So I do think after 12 years of practicing and navigating through this dynamic, we are getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
It used to be, in the early years, I remember it was high stress, like all day, every day before bed, we would check the sales report and like, oh my goodness, today really sucked. Yeah. And then next day, wow, today is really good. And that's just a really stressful way to go to bed every night. Yeah. So I think in the recent years, that has gotten a lot better. We have kind of hours that we dedicate to being productive and doing work. But obviously once in a while, there will be stressful events and there will be great events to celebrate. And you just kind of need to pick and choose, when you want to engage in those things. And, I think the biggest learning is that instead of going, I don't like this dynamic and we need to change it and this is not working, I think embrace it, because I also feel like it is due to our personality and our kind of how should I put it? Our relationship in working together that has made us successful, and you got to give it to that, because if we didn't work together, we wouldn't be here now. Yeah. So I do count our blessings in a sense that, if we hadn't done this together, yes, it can be frustrating, but if we hadn't done this together, we wouldn't be in this position right now. So instead of getting angry about, oh my gosh, it's so stressful, like working with family, we do sometimes take the time to try and turn things around and go, it's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good thing as well. So just being able to see that side, as well as also acknowledge that, okay, sometimes we do need to spend family time together, let's just put that aside and let's work on it again tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you do to kind of keep that line clear? Because I know, like, as for for me, like I work for myself. So, I have to be quite strict and hard on myself that I don't take my devices into bed and check the emails and the texts and whatever. And
it's
sometimes
so hard.
I don't reply to people, much to some people's, annoyance after a certain time. But how do you kind of, create that balance?
Same as
you have kids as well,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. I mean, it's so hard because we have no iPad rule on weekdays, and you only get to use it for 1 to 2 hours on the weekend per day. Yeah. And like, I'm constantly working on my phone. I'm constantly sending emails, and they're like, Mom. And I'm like, yeah, hang on. And I'm like typing something like, Mom. And I'm like, sorry, I'm just really busy. And then I get flustered. I'm like, what? It's not really their fault. No. Like, and then they want to be on their device. I'm like, you can't be on your device. They're like, but you're on your phone all the time. Then, how do you handle that? Because they don't know what I'm doing on my phone. Yeah. I can tell them all I want that, no, I'm sending an email. They don't even know what an email is. You know what I mean? Like, it's just difficult. So I'm not doing it as well as I should be doing. But I am really trying to be conscious of when I pick up my phone. And for example, I really try to just leave my phone in the room at dinner time, just to make sure there are no distractions there. And really try to be present for them. And one more thing is as well, when they're doing sport, they do a lot of sports. So every time I take them, I drive them to, you know, soccer or skateboarding or whatever. And like, again, sitting in the corner and like sending emails. And then they're like, why are you even here? You're not watching me. And it's really like a kick in the butt for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right. Why am I here?
Yeah.
So sometimes I do feel very guilty for doing that. And I'm really trying my best.
Yeah.
But you would know as an entrepreneur, it's nonstop, you know, it's nonstop.
Yeah.
It's not like you go to the office at 9 and you clock out at 5 and you're like, okay, my day's done. I'll start again tomorrow.
Yeah.
You kind of have to deal with things as they come.
Yeah.
And you just never switch off.
Yeah.
So yeah, doing my best. I think I am getting better. And in terms of nighttime stuff, I do have, you know, midnight wakings, and I have like my sleep cycle that breaks every now and then, and I'll like wake up and I'm like, oh no, I'm awake. I do make an effort to not touch my phone. I used to pick up my phone and check any new messages and things like that. I'm trying not to do that. It's worked. So that's one thing that I've succeeded in terms of drawing that line.
No, I always ask, you know, other kind of entrepreneurs, because I'm curious, because I also, like, I recognize that I'm doing the best that I can, but I also am like, I should not be doing all this work at 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
I should have that time for myself. And so I do find it a little bit of a struggle sometimes.
It is a give and take though, because when you run your own business, or you do your own thing as an entrepreneur, you also have the luxury of, you know, going to work out at 10 or going to work out at 3 p.m. in the day. You have that flexibility. So I think it is a little bit of give and take, similar to, you know, what we talked about earlier with the relationship working with your family member. It is give and take. You have to accept that sometimes it is going to be like shit, and you're going to have to check your phone at 11, and you're going to have to get stuff done at the time. But majority of the time, it's going to be great because you can dictate your own time. So so it's a little bit of both. And the grass is always greener. You know, people who work 9 to 5, they're like, well, I want to run my own thing. And you're like, yeah, but you run your own thing. You're just always working and you never shut off. I think it's just that balance. And
you go from 9 to 5 to 9 to 12 kind of thing. Like the hours extend. Yeah.
But just a lot of pockets in between where you're actually getting free time to do whatever you want.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's go back to the kind of development, the building of yoga movement. You went from, you said 1 studio to 2, and now you have 12. Is it
10 in Singapore and 1 in Hong Kong?
Yeah. How do you kind of manage consistency in Singapore, like through all the different studios?
Through a lot of effort. I mean, we have a great team. You know, we have a great team, and a lot of whom are in the team have been with us for such a long time, which honestly, I have to say I am very proud of, because, you know, people, I guess, stay in a single company for a reason, because, you know, they feel that they gel with the culture, and, you know, they love the brand and they love everything that they work for. So I am very proud to say that we do have a handful of people in the team that have been with us for anywhere from like 8 to 10 years, 11 years. Wow. And a lot of them know the brand extremely well. The team is great, and we have a lot of systems put in place to grow. So while they take a little bit longer to ensure consistency in delivery, it is all very deliberate. I mean, we are all vertically run, right? We are not a franchise business where, you know, we would sell a license to a partner and go, okay, you open it up and you run the operations, and I'll just kind of wash my hands off and leave you alone. We're literally in charge of all 11 locations. And the HQ team consists of 9 people, you know, but obviously, No.
I'd imagine that, like, from 1 studio and even maybe 2, you were pretty hands-on.
I was everything.
At any stage did you have to kind of recognize that you needed to pull back and hand the reins over to someone else? And how was that in terms of like the control of my baby, your babies kind of thing? How was that?
I mean, look, the first location, it was completely bootstrapped, and I didn't have any budget to hire anyone. So I was the cleaner, the front desk, the front of house, and I was also the teacher. And, you know, obviously Then when we had our first full class, that led to high demands of the second full class and third, fourth, fifth, and then every class started getting full. And then we're like, shit, we need to look for another location.
Yeah.
Obviously, then I'm like, well, I'm one person. I can't look after 2 locations. I need to start hiring teachers. Then I think it was up till we hit about 4 to 5 locations where we went, okay, I do think the business, if we are looking to grow and scale, because again, when we started, we never set out to have like 10 locations in mind, or we didn't have that plan. It was like, let's see how it goes. And then it just grew organically. But I think we hit a point where I think it was 4 studios where we're like, okay, I think we're at a really sweet spot now where the business has potential to expand even more. And whether or not we just keep doing yoga, we go outside of yoga and expand, branch into other modalities as well. Obviously that was another question, but I think it was around 4 studios, and that was a sweet spot where we're like, I think it's time to rent an office. I think it's time to hire a team, as every entrepreneur does, we always start with a creative team. We start with a creative team, and then we had marketing, and, slowly started to hire more and more. But I think it would have been about year 4, year 3 or year 4, where we started putting a lot of structure in with the intention to grow. But prior to that, it was just, running with it. Let's run with it, and just everyone dip your toes in everything. But, at some point, I guess at a certain size, you need a little bit more structure, and you're like, you need to recognize that, as the business owner or the founder of the brand, like I can't be the one doing everything. And at some point, it needs to run autonomously without me, and the business will need to, succeed even with my non-existence. So I think very early on as well, because, I was using a lot of my own network to get the yoga movement name out there.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of promotion, because obviously at the time I was in entertainment, and I talked a lot about, hey, I'm starting this and blah, blah, blah. And very early on, we decided that, you know what, it's not going to be Alicia Studio, it's going to be Yoga Movement, because you can't tie the brand to a single person. You know what I mean? Like, if you want the brand to be successful, it needs to have legs on its own, and it can't be tied to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, it's nice, because right now I do feel successful in that sense where, I sometimes I would pop in and teach a class, and I would have people ask me, so when are you teaching here again? Do you teach elsewhere? Like they have no idea who I am, which is great, because that was the purpose from day one. I cannot be bigger than the brand and the business, because if someone hates me, for example, then the business is going to go down with that. So we need people to support the brand and not the individual.
Yeah.
And the brand needs to be bigger than any individual in the business. So that was kind of where we were at with everything in the start. So, completely just remove me from all the marketing, remove me from all the visual, all the imagery and everything that we put out, and made it Yoga Movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that filters down as well to the teachers.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think makes a good teacher?
I think a good practitioner doesn't necessarily make a good teacher. For me, being a good teacher means that you are able to connect and deliver a service, which is obviously for us, yoga classes, with excellence to the people that you are teaching it to.
Yeah.
I think I've been to so many different types of classes where, amazing instructor, amazing practitioner. Sorry, I'm going to correct myself. Amazing practitioner. I'm mixing the two up. Amazing practitioner, if you watch them do the poses and the sequences, flawless.
Yeah.
But that didn't translate well into a great experience or a great class for the clients. So I think having the balance of, excuse me, obviously being able to demonstrate what the body can do so people feel inspired, but at the same time also being articulate enough to, express to people like how this can be executed and how you can get there as well, I think are equally important.
Yeah.
And also obviously someone with, personality and someone who cares about the clients, right?
Yeah.
And not just someone who just, hey, and, just remain aloof.
Because I think in today's kind of climate of, boutique fitness, there's a lot of emphasis on like the personality and the kind of star trainer and the star power. In some respects, so I actually studied acting at university, so I have that performative streak and the background behind me, which I felt lended itself well to when I first started out, like I was doing the high energy kind of Barry's boot camp style, I was like, but then that sometimes overshadows what's being instructed or being taught. And sometimes
I know what you mean.
There's no substance behind what's being taught. It's all about, like
the
so-and-so's,
show,
like Dua Lipa class, or do you know what I mean? Like, do you try and avoid that in your brands, or like?
I do think it needs to be both though, like we do something that's a little bit different in our academy. We run for YMTT, so yoga movement teacher training. 4 courses a year, and they're actually quite popular in Singapore. Hopefully one day we'll be able to roll that out in Hong Kong, where people would undergo a 8 to 9 weekend, because obviously this is catered to people who work.
Sure.
No one can kind of give their entire weeks to doing like 8 hours of teacher training a day in Singapore. So it's a 8 to 9 weekend kind of intensive program where people come in and obviously do the full training, and then they can then after that apply to teach if they wanted to, or just kind of go deeper into their practice. And one of the modules in YMTT that is so unique about our program is that we do cover 2 things that a lot of other trainings don't cover. So number one, we do actually a full kind of acting and how to own the room performing type class. Because I feel like for new instructors, whether it's yoga, whether it's spin, whether it's Pilates or anything like that, you stand in front of the room, even as a singer actually, when you're starting out, the first biggest hurdle would be to get over that fear of like, oh, everyone's looking at me. Oh, and it is scary.
Yeah.
For someone just starting out who has never been on a stage, been in front of people, it is scary. Because I remember my first show when I was 17, I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Like, and obviously all eyes are on you. Sometimes you would know, you would be, hey, everyone, how's everyone doing? And you don't get anything. And you're like, okay, so how do I move on from that? And it becomes a really awkward silence. So just being able to kind of deal with that, knowing how to kind of, okay, move forward.
Yeah.
I think
what is the tip? Picture everyone naked.
No, someone said to me, just imagine you are looking at a sea of like fishes or whatever. They're just eyes looking at you and they're not people. But nothing helps. Let's just face it, nothing helps. So. It's experience that helps.
Yeah.
So that is a very important module that a lot of, I feel, trainings out there don't do.
Yeah.
Because you need to help them get over that fear of how to own that room if this happens, and if your clients ask you something that you stumble upon, how do you react to that, and how do you move forward if you're stuck?
Yeah.
How to project your voice. And we even do a vocal session where we make everyone do like, vocal warm-ups and things, because as an instructor, you need to have a voice that people can hear.
Yeah.
And using your throat voice is not going to cut it. You need to use your diaphragm. So we do talk about, we get vocal instructors to come in, teach people how to use their diaphragm, how to use your diaphragm voice, and then how to basically own the room, meaning how to get everyone's attention. Because you know how it is. Sometimes you talk, other people start talking, and then no one's listening.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to be that person who walks in the room and everyone just pays attention to you. And you need a certain kind of characteristic to be able to grab everyone's attention. So we cover that. And then the second part is we also talk about the reality of the business of yoga. Because I think there is a misconception out there that, you know what, I'm done with my corporate life and I just want to be a yoga teacher. And they don't realize that it's a very tiring job. Everything looks so rosy on Instagram, and everything's always rainbows and butterflies, yoga on the beach, yoga and, in front of a waterfall and things like that. But it's a job at the end of the day. And you need to understand that if you're committing or you're quitting everything else to become a yoga teacher, there is a demand that you need to work X amount of hours a week, and it is tiring.
Yeah.
So just really explaining the realities of that, and also the realities of running a yoga business, so that people actually understand like what goes in and out. It's not just coming in and, teaching a class. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So I think getting people to understand that as well is something that we want to achieve, so that, I guess it's a win-win situation for all. They complete the course and they come in and they apply to be a teacher. They know how things work in the back end as well. Yeah. So these are 2 things. I think back to your question in my very long story.
Yeah.
What do you look for in an instructor? I do think is that ability to grab the room's attention. I mean, obviously that's one, but it needs to be a 50% of grabbing the room's attention, but 50% substance as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 I like that you kind of give the instructors a kind of holistic overview of, what they're kind of getting themselves into, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think another thing is that like people also maybe don't realize how crowded the market is.
So crowded.
What are your thoughts on, having now been in Singapore and Hong Kong, the fitness scenes in both of the cities? Because it's quite, people will automatically assume like Hong Kong, Singapore, the same,
very
similar playing field, but actually it's a little bit different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely at this point, I would say, more confident in talking about the fitness landscape in Singapore. I think we're still trying to kind of figure out the magical recipe here in Hong Kong right now. I mean, we've only been open for 6 months, and prior to coming, I think early last year to view locations and kind of check out the scene here, it had been 15 years before I came, when I last came to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So I did try out a couple of different places, and I think there are definitely a lot of similarities, but at the same time also I noticed that I guess the fitness scene here is a lot more, I wouldn't say fickle, but I would say I think people don't really like to commit to one thing. I think, I mean, both instructors and client wise, I think people like to dip their toes into everything. I rarely see or rarely speak to instructors, for example, who are like, oh, I'm only teaching at one place.
Yeah.
Or I'm committed to this brand, or I'm like on Mondays I'm here, on Tuesdays I'm here, Wednesdays I'm here. So I don't know if it's because it's a hustle scene where everyone feels like I need to do as much as I can, I need to make as much money as I can because I need to survive, or is there just not enough out there to give someone a full-time job? You know what I mean? Like if, for example, if you're a boutique studio and you're running 5 classes, 3 classes a day, maybe 2 on the weekends, like, is that enough for someone to sustain a full-time income? So maybe that's one of the reasons. Not dissimilar to Singapore, to be honest. Like, especially for our strong brand, a lot of our trainers, who are wonderful, by the way, they also teach a lot of other strength and conditioning gyms. Most of our yoga movement team are exclusively ours in yoga.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of yoga, I think there is definitely a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You touched upon Strong. How did Strong come about, and Move Repeat? How did that all kind of skyrocket?
Yeah. Let me think of the timeline. So, I mean, Pete and I had always talked about expanding outside of just yoga.
Yeah.
Yoga is great. Yoga will always be there. But what more can we do and put under our umbrella of brands? So there was always a talk about, should we be doing spin, or should we be doing what's the biggest trend at the moment? But obviously we won't just follow trends. We don't follow blindly.
Yeah.
The trends need to make sense. They need to be viable, and also they need to kind of sit in line with what we believe in in yoga movement, the brand values and the brand, the way it looks, and obviously it needs to fit in that category.
Yeah.
So when the opportunity to speak to the Strong founders who are based in Australia came about, we're like, let's just jump on that and chat and see how we feel. And then understanding the brand, the service, and the product a little bit more through those conversations, we're like, this is really interesting. So we flew to Australia to try a couple of classes. And look, if you asked me if at that time it was just traditional Pilates, I would have said no, because there's a lot out there. There's a lot. But again, we need that USP. What's that unique selling point? And that's what Strong did really well. They consider themselves the black sheep of Pilates because, it's not traditional Pilates. You get the benefits of Pilates, but it's about 10 times more intense. And you should try it when you're in Singapore, by the way.
I tried it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. But it wasn't this.
Which class did you try?
There was no cardio element.
Oh, then you probably did Pilates only.
Yeah.
So that's
because there was it was the bike, is it?
We have the bike and the rower.
Yeah, we didn't do either of those.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
did the Pilates only class. Okay. Which is good too.
It was great. It was great.
But the
I was
thing
like,
that...
what are those? What's that?
Yeah,
You
we
know,
didn't
I was
use
like
the
a little-
dumbbells. We didn't use the bikes.
Yeah.
I was hoping to do that.
Yeah.
By any chance, do you remember what day it was?
I'm not sure.
It
I
was
think
Sunday,
there were
Pilates.
weights though, but there just wasn't like the cardio element to it. There wasn't like the sweaty.
Maybe you did the Strength Plus, which is like no cardio.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, give it another chance.
Yeah. No, it was great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
But what really made us attracted to the brand is obviously number one, the branding was, no pun intended, very strong.
Yeah.
Very sexy. Feminine yet masculine.
Yes.
And the involvement of cardio as well as dumbbells and strength training combined with Pilates, which is resistance training, is really what got us. And we tried it. We're like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So then we decided to take on the Singapore Master Agreement, which means that we were going to be in charge of opening the strong locations in Singapore. And then we very quickly did that and opened our first. And then the second came about quite shortly after. I think it was 3 months after. And then the third and the fourth. So now we're at 4 in Singapore. Yeah.
Okay. Also, just to backtrack a bit, I did notice that the class I went to was maybe about 50% guys.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So, you're not alienating anybody.
Maybe it's because you're there.
Maybe.
They knew that you were coming.
Yeah. My milkshake brings all the voice of the yard.
Probably that. They could sense it. You were sending out the... Yeah.
So... this whole podcast is kind of like a little bit of an exploration about like movement and how much we can learn from it and learn about ourselves, learn about other people. We did a power flow class this morning.
We did.
What did you learn about yourself today?
I learned that I was very tight. No, to be honest, like I feel like since I've done more weight training, more strength training, I've definitely been a lot tighter.
Right. Yeah.
And I think a lot of factors play a part to that as well. Because I used to only do yoga when I was in my 20s, like early 20s. And I felt like I was a lot more flexible than I was today, that I am right now, actually. And the poses feel a lot easier. Right now, there are so many shapes that I struggle with, in terms of like shoulder mobility or like hip opening and things like that. But I do recognize it's something that I do need to be doing more regularly. Yoga is kind of my active recovery days now.
Yeah.
Where I try to do it, twice a week. But most of my days are spent doing more strength work.
Okay.
And prior to this, I used to box a lot.
Oh,
so
wow.
I used to have a lot of shoulder pains and things like that. And then when strong came about, I started doing resistance work, and that really helped my shoulders to heal.
Yeah.
But yoga is important. I feel like I need to be doing that, at least maintaining that once or twice a week type routine.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you ask me what the one thing I learned about myself today is, wow, it was tough. My back, for some reason, has become really just unbendy. And I feel like that was made worse as well after I had kids.
Right.
I don't know what it is. It's not like it affects your back in any way, but I don't know. Like I just feel like I'm so inflexible in my spine right now, and yeah, probably got to be doing more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself over the years through movement?
That I would say that I think I'm still doing pretty well at 40.
Happy belated birthday. I saw that I saw you had a nice little celebration.
I had a month of celebration. Yeah, I felt a bit guilty. I was like, okay, Taipei and then Lombok and then dinners and all these events. And I was like, okay, I think it's time to settle. It's been a month of celebration. Thank you. But yeah, no, I think the body can do more than you think it can.
Yeah.
There's so many times where I'm just like, I am just so tired. And I start wearing this Aura ring, by the way, where I never used to want to do stuff like that because I'm like, I get really anxious when I don't sleep well, or, I get really anxious when I feel like I'm not feeling great. And I'm like, oh, I have all these things to do, but I'm not feeling great. But this has really helped me and my mind settle a little bit, because obviously Aura is used for your sleep. And my sleep scores have been pretty good.
Okay.
So even when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I feel not great and I feel a bit woozy and blah, blah, blah. And I check my Oura ring and your sleep score is 90 and your readiness is 95. You're ready for the day.
Oh, wow.
It actually motivates me to get going.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, maybe it's a mind over matter thing, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like I feel like sometimes I do feel I'm just so fatigued. I'm so lethargic, but excuse me, your body can do so much more than you know.
Yeah.
Honestly. And yeah, I just feel sometimes it's really our minds telling us that we can't do something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And you can see that, you know, for example, getting up early for an early workout where you're just like, sometimes you wake up, you're just like, I just really don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna go.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna force myself to go. And I'm gonna kick my own butt if I don't. So I'm just gonna go. And then you get done with it. It is tiring, it is hard, but then when you're done, you're like, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the time it's just really getting that mindset that I just need to go.
Yeah.
And I'll feel better after that.
We were at opposite ends of the room.
Yes, sorry about that.
No. But I feel like I observed from you, I could see you in my periphery, that you move with purpose. You move with intention. Like you weren't like, Philippa was kind of instructing us and you weren't just like jumping into the pose. Like you were very kind of methodical and careful and purposeful with how you move.
Thanks for observing.
And I feel that that's you in life, especially with building your brand, with building the yoga movement brand. You know, everything was intentional. Everything had a purpose, which I definitely appreciate. So that's what.
Thank you.
Fair assessment, do you think?
Fair assessment.
Yeah.
Fair assessment. Everything is definitely quite deliberate in what we do.
Yeah.
And, you know, otherwise there's no focus and you kind of lose touch with your initial goal or what you created something for, you know, like you don't want to ever lose touch of that, right? You need to be, you need to streamline your focus and go like, okay, this is where I want to be. And then, like you keep with that straight line. Otherwise, there's too many distractions of what you could or could not do. And then all of a sudden you go this way and you go this way and then you lose your initial focus. So I think it is important to do everything with a lot of deliberation.
Yeah.
Whether it's movement or whether it's, you know, running a business or running your own life, you need to know what you want, right?
Yeah. That inspires me and kind of motivates me because I think I am someone that goes there and then there, then there.
I mean, there's so many temptations, you know. I'm going to give you one really good example of, you know, opportunities that we've turned down at Yoga Movement. I mean, for so long, we have so many people asking us, why don't you do kids yoga? Why don't you do, you know, pregnancy yoga? And look, I know there's a big market there and there's a lot of money to be made there, but and I love kids and I have been pregnant. So it's not like I'm, you know, shunning the pregnant people out. I have been there and I have experienced that and I know it's needed. But what is our intention of our brand? And our intention is to make sure that the guys feel welcome, that we make it accessible to everyone. Look, if we put a picture of, you know, kids running around, a pregnant lady, for example, in our visuals, for example, the guys feel, oh, okay, I think this is a studio for pregnant women, and naturally they'll stay away from it. So we needed to stick to our original intention of saying, okay, what are we here for? We're here to keep it very accessible. Pregnant women are more than welcome. Kids are more than welcome, but you know, we do that via private sessions. You know, I mean, I was doing yoga in up till my last day of pregnancy. So, you know, they are more than welcome to come join our regular classes. We'll make it accessible for you. But of course, understanding not everybody feels comfortable doing that and the private classes are available. But, you know, understanding that while there are opportunities that would make us more money, we don't have to say yes to everything. And that's where you lose focus, right? Yeah.
So with us being at opposite ends of the room, what did you observe or notice or learn about me, if anything?
You're very strong and you're very flexible and you move with a lot of grace.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, you know, we also did a video take of flowing together and we were completely in sync.
Yes.
So yes, it was very nice.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we are wrapping up, but we like to wrap up our podcast conversations with a lightning round, a set of go-to questions. Don't think too hard. It's just a bunch of questions. Just the first thing that pops into your head.
I do my best.
First one, go-to sweat.
Yoga movement.
Yoga.
Yoga. Okay, yoga. Right. Yoga. Actually, no. Yeah, yoga.
Okay. Okay. We
That
can.
was a terrible. Can we restart?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Lightning round. Go to.
Yoga.
Go to sweat. Yoga.
Yoga.
Okay. Go to stress reliever.
Massage.
Any recommendations?
Not in Hong Kong because I
Okay.
don't. If you have recommendations, let me know.
Singapore.
I mean, I love a good nature land because they have about 100,000 out. I'm joking.
Is
They
that
have
the
about
one-
like 20 outlets in Singapore, and you can always get a slot.
I think I've been to Natureland. They serve really good ginger tea.
Ginger tea,
Yes.
yeah, and they have about I think 90 people. I exaggerate,
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
have a lot of people working in every location, so you
Yeah.
never have to worry about
Yeah.
not getting a slot. You
Yeah,
can
yeah.
rock in, and they have
Yeah.
a chair for you. So
Natureland, if you're listening or watching, I'm looking for sponsors for the podcast. So, you just got a free shout out. There are other massage places available. Go to treat meal.
oh. Shake Shack. Is that bad? Is that bad?
Oh, that's a good one.
Should I feel guilty
No, that's a
saying
good
that
one.
here?
No, that's
I know
definitely
we're
a
all
good
about
one.
moving and sweating.
No,
and
no. It's
Shake
like you
Shack.
said, all about balance.
It's all about
Yeah.
balance.
And that's why I like to say treat rather than cheat, because
Yes.
you don't deprive yourself.
Yes.
It's just,
Yes.
Go to travel destination. You've been on a world tour for your birthday, so where
I
was
mean,
good?
I really just anywhere with a good beach. Like I am
Okay.
a beach person.
You're a beach person.
Yeah, I am
so
a beach
more
person.
a sun holiday than a snow holiday.
Yeah.
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 I'm with
I love
you.
the snow. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I love doing that once a year, but I'm definitely more
Yeah.
a beach person. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
probably beach like 360 days of the year, and then 5 days for the snow.
5 days.
5 days
Okay.
in the snow. Yeah.
Love it. Go to morning routine.
Coffee.
Okay.
Coffee followed by workout.
What is your coffee?
An oat
Black?
flat white.
Okay.
Usually long blacks in the morning, and then the second one will be oat flat white.
Okay.
And then sometimes the third, the fourth. But I try to keep it at 2.
Oh yeah. So how many? 4?
On Monday this week when I was flying over here, I had 4. Terrible.
Yeah.
But usually I try to keep it at 2.
Yeah. I find I can't have coffee after like lunchtime.
It's the way to do it. I spoke to a nutritionist before, and they say you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because then you crash, and also like
Yes.
it kind of cancel out your iron absorption in your body and
right.
things like that. So you
Okay,
should only
yeah.
have vitamin C after lunch.
Yeah.
Coffees, keep them before noon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't work for me,
I'm on-
but yeah.
Go to mantra.
Oh, so cliche. You only live once. Oh.
Oh, that was. I asked another guest that, and
Yeah.
they said that.
Well, that's just kind
Yeah.
of my encouragement for just saying, just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
eat that burger. You only live once. Just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Go to music playlist.
Prince.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen him?
No.
Oh, yeah.
But we had him for our wedding walkout song.
Oh yeah. What song?
Call My Name.
Oh, I don't know that
Yeah.
one.
That was
Okay.
from the musicology album. Yeah.
Okay. Go to weekend activity.
Oh, so many. I mean, if we had, going to the beach. Yeah. I mean, I'm with my kids on the weekends.
Sentosa
so-
Beach.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Beach.
hesitant to say that. Yeah. I mean, when we're in Australia, we're at the beach every day. I would say in general, go to the
Yeah.
beach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your happy place.
Yeah.
Go to self-care ritual.
I would say my massage is my self-care ritual.
Okay.
Yeah. I go several times a week.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is facials, in case you haven't guessed by my post
by
podcast appointment after this.
Your glowing skin.
I'm gonna do a cheeky last one. Go to karaoke song. Singer.
Alicia Keys, If I Ain't Got You.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to go to karaoke one time.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Oh, there seems to be a big year coming up for us at Move Repeat. So obviously now with Revel on the cards, we're going to be, supporting them a lot more with the growth and opening in different regions and speed that up a little bit. We hope to be able to expand a little bit more in Hong Kong in terms of yoga movement and Singapore. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a big year for us for growth this year. We're working on a business plan right now.
Yeah.
And, by the start of the financial year, which is April, we should be able to have a solid plan in place. But yeah, we're gonna keep going. Yeah, we're gonna keep the momentum going this year, and we're not gonna stop.
Taking over the world. taking over the fitness world.
The region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other kind of brands or like movement modalities do you think that you would like to invite onto Move Repeat?
I mean, now we've
Let's
got
manifest that for you now.
Pilates, strength and conditioning, yoga. I would say the logical next step would be spin. I mean, spin is also something that's big in the market at the moment.
Yeah.
But again, because there's so much spin around, so much spin going around.
Yeah.
There are so many spin concepts around. We definitely need to find what the unique selling point is and come up with something innovative where, you know, someone else and other people haven't done yet. Because otherwise you're just putting out another spin studio, right? So I feel like we still need to find that secret recipe as to what that looks like for us if we were to do a spin modality.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, we've got a complete kind of 4 different modalities that most people are looking for. Maybe one day we'll branch out to massage, who knows? Body therapy, whatever
I love
you want
it.
to call
I
that.
love it. I love it. I will be first in line. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll launch like an all-access membership where you can go to all different places, including the recovery stuff.
Yeah. Where can people find you on socials?
My account's private, but
sorry. Where can people find your brands on socials?
At Yoga Movement or at Yoga Movement Hong Kong. But you know, add me, I will accept it. It's just I don't like people stalking. So
sure.
It's at Alicia_Pan.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much
for having me.
For making time in your busy trip. I know that we had to fit it in, but
my pleasure.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I am so excited to see where Yoga Movement, where Move Repeat, with all the brands and everything goes this year.
Yeah, and I will see you when I'm back again next.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Move, Sweat, Discover. If you liked the episode, please subscribe and write us a 5-star review. See you next time.